Welcome back to the Supercoach Hub AFL Classic Podcast. You're on with the host, Scoby_SC Hub, which is obviously me and my dear friend Verns. Verns, how are you tonight, mate?
Yeah, doing great, mate. Ready to talk some Supercoach.
Wonderful, wonderful. Just for all the listeners, everybody out there, Joshy is not with us tonight. He's exceptionally busy. The man is working, doing modules, doing literally everything under the sun. So we hope to have him back soon, but we will kick on as usual. Verns, start us off. How was your week in Supercoach?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad. It was definitely below par, but it did move me up in the ranks, saying that I don't think that's too hard. Put out a 23-25, went up to 48,600-ish. So pretty far back. Got to make some moves to get going. While we're on the subject of ranks, I will go through the consensus team nice and early for once.
Lay it off for us, mate, because I always forget.
Well, the consensus team put out a 23.07, actually went back 1,000 ranks to 29,000. But look, that's just a bit of fun in the Discord, guys. Feel free to jump in, add your votes, and just play along with, I guess, a bit of a second team, but just with everyone.
Wonderful, mate. Wonderful. My round 9 score was 2,341. That was actually a rank drop of 1.3k. I'm currently sitting at 5,017. So hopefully, after I'm fairly sure it's 3 or 4 weeks of falling in the ranks, it'd be nice to actually fucking go the other way for once, which would be handy. But we hope that happens. Obviously, not everything comes to fruition. Verns, market summary. You're up, mate. Lead us off.
Yep, awesome. We'll start off with traded out players, and we are looking at the top 5% this time. Number 5 is going to be, let me count for a second, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is going to be Blake Howes. 7.8% have traded him out, leaving him still in 20% of the top 5% teams. But I mean, 293,000 prime target to get out of the team with a 65 break even.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's shown that he can obviously eclipse that, but he's also shown that he can go under it. Don't think it's a glaring issue right now, but I mean, if it helps get that upwards trade cadence going, then absolutely have no issues with ditching Blake Howes, mate. Who's next on the list?
Yeah, next one will be Nate Fife. So we did talk about him last week, how we did
feel
did
like... Did you just call him Nate?
I did, and yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Well, we're not going to edit that one out, but for all the listeners, just know we're not illiterate. It is Nat Fife.
Sorry.
Okay.
But,
come on.
Yeah. 12.6% of the top 5% have traded them out, still held by 32.4%. We did talk about this a bit last week. Obviously, that sub game means that he was going to drop in cash this week, basically no matter what. He did lose 20k, still got 150 break even. Look, I personally, from last week, still the same thing. I think he is someone that you should be able to hold and maybe play him on your bench. But I guess I understand that we have a lot of rookies with good break evens right now, so it's hard to move on somebody where we have 5 with 150 break even. So if you don't think he's a keeper, then he seems pretty ideal to trade on out.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. Honestly, if Fife's on your bench, though, your forward line is absolutely humming. Like, absolutely humming. But the way I say it is he scored a 60 and had 3 frees against in literally the first quarter. Like, he got done holding the ball 3 times. Obviously, it's happened, but devil's advocate, if it wasn't to happen, that 60 probably turns into a 75, and with a little bit of scaling, maybe an 80, which would have been nice. But I mean, look at their run coming up. I'm happy to keep Fife, honestly. That 17 drops out of the price cycle. Hopefully he can get a big spike game and then obviously make a little bit more money or just turn into a full-blown forward premium.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, they are coming to St Kilda this week. St Kilda, honestly, pretty weak midfield outside of Jack Steele. We know Windhager loves to tag, but if he's going to anyone, it's definitely not Fife. So I feel like he's in for a big one this week.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. And hopefully that comes to fruition. But obviously, as we know, sometimes all the signs point to one thing in Supercoach and then shit hits a fan and it literally goes the exact opposite way.
Yeah. Now, the next one who's been traded out, 14.6% of the top 5% have traded out Graham. That's Will Graham from Gold Coast. Still 69.1% hold him. I'm pretty surprised to see how many have traded him out. I'll let you start this one off. What do you feel?
So I had the option of trading Clossy or Graham last week, and that was to keep that upgrade cadence going. I chose Graham. It's worked in my favor, actually. I know he's got a low break even, but he didn't travel with the squad. They play in the Northern Territory. He's currently not with them. Dimmer has said that he's not going to play this week, and there's no VFL for them. So I think it'll be very difficult for him to actually come back into the team unless there's some injuries. So I genuinely have no issue with trading Graham out. Nothing to do with him. It's just team structure, and you've got to keep those upgrades going.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that too. Just in the sense that I mentioned it before, but there's a lot of rookies with good break evens. Like it's hard to kind of be moving them on right now. I know, Clossy's on a 30 break even, Sam Darcy's on a 30 break even, Combin's now on a 38 break even because he's reset that. Like outside of Graham, they're like my next best sort of rookies to trade myself. And it's just, you almost don't want to move them on with a 30 break even and playing. So unfortunately, as good as Graham's been, and as much as you'd like to hold him, it makes plenty of sense to be moving him on. So definitely agree
absolutely.
there. Now the next one will be Matt Roberts. Now these guys might have been a little bit late to the party here. Unfortunately, he did just lose 27.4k, which hurts a little. Had an awful wing roll. But yeah, 21.9% of the top 5% have traded him out. Huge chunk, leaving him with only 11.8 left. I mean, what do you want to say about this?
No, we don't need to say anything else. Just trade him, get rid of him. It's pretty stock standard. I don't think we need to elaborate anymore on Matty Roberts.
Easy. Now this one I think is a bit interesting in my opinion, but the number one most traded out player at 44.2% is Harley Reid. Still held by you just get rid of him?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm personally holding him. I want him as my F7, F6. I mean, in my opinion, with Cini has a ceiling. I mean, if we get to later on in the season and he's sitting at F7 with the emergency on him, he pops out one of these 100 games, just slip him on field, in my opinion, and then hopefully dodge these lower scores. He's also got a great run coming up after Melbourne. Yeah, Melbourne are restrictive, Adelaide are restrictive, but then he's got St Kilda and North, both weak midfields that he could hit the ton in both those games, in my opinion. So I'm all for sort of holding him as a keeper. As I mentioned, sort of that swingman. But obviously, half the competition disagrees. You disagree, and he's gone straight out that door.
No, I completely disagree. Obviously, they played our team. They got pumped by us, which was fantastic. But what I didn't like from just a general Supercoach perspective was when he would play deep forward. Now, obviously, he's got the ability to take absolute hangers, win one-on-one contests, and kick bulk snags, but it didn't eventuate. Like, if I've got a rookie on the field, I want him to be, and when I say rookie, I'm talking from a general perspective, not so much Supercoach now. I want them to be up and around the ball. So, like, you've got other rookies, say like a Wilson, etc., from St Kilda. You've got Garcia from the Dogs. You've even got Garcia from the Saints. They're always up around the ball. When they're on the field, they're in contention to be getting points. Reid, it just seemed he'd have midfield bursts. Yes, that was fantastic. There was a few frees against, which were a bit dubious to say the least, which lowered his score. But if they're going to be getting absolutely annihilated each week and he's going to be playing as a deepest forward, and I guess with Waterman being out, that had some effect on him. I'm not really loving that role anymore. I know he still had a lot of CBAs, but it just seemed as if from the eye, they wanted him deep forward just to isolate him, to see what he can do down there, give them a spark. But for a Supercoach perspective, I'm more than happy to ditch him. Like if it comes down to Fife and Reid and you have to choose one, I'm 100% trading Harley Reid.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. I don't personally own Fife, so you'd say Reid's running my Fife role in that regard. I mean, look, as you sort of mentioned, he had CBAs, 83% CBAs, so still very high. But you're not wrong. I mean, I was at the game and my uncle next to me made the comment, like, I haven't seen Harley Reid all game. And I'm like, he's actually playing deep forward right in front of us right now.
Yep.
Like,
which is a super coach killer if you're playing for a shit side.
Yeah, definitely. But I think 83% CBAs, I'm still fine. Like, as I said, he's playing my 5 role. He's going to play hopefully on my bench and can get spike games that mean that he gets looped on field. So, but obviously, if it breaks your upgrade cadence, holding him and you have someone like him in a 5 makes perfect sense to sort of move him instead.
Now, you spoke, before we move to the trade ins, you spoke about a loop. I'm just reading the chat here, and this is very rare that I'm actually going to praise an Essendon supporter, because Jay has just come in with an absolute banger of a comment. West Coast play 7 of their last 15 games on a Sunday. Holding as a loop will be hard for half of those games. I completely agree, and I did not know this.
The other thing there is, as much as they play on Sunday, which sucks, is, let's be honest, the forward line's super versatile. I wouldn't be surprised if I have someone like a Charlie Curnow in my forward line. And if Charlie Curnow plays on Friday, I'll use him as the loop man. And if he gets a poor score, puts out a 60, then Reid comes on field. And hopefully you can get one of those spike games. So it doesn't matter that Reid has the Sunday games, because these forwards are unreliable anyway.
Yep. No, I completely agree, mate. It was just very interesting, as I said, Jay, some intellect coming from an Essendon supporter regarding that half of his games are on a Sunday. I didn't even look that far into it, which was probably me not doing enough research, but I'm glad he brought that to my attention. Yeah, we will move on. Who are the top trade-ins, mate?
Yeah, so top trade-ins here. Starting number 5, it is Luke Ryan. So all those that missed the boat last week and just decided that they can't sit through the St. Kilda game that's coming this week. So 6%, putting him to a 63.8% ownership in the top 5%. So yeah, if you're anti-potting him, he is a dangerous one to not be on.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I got him last week, and at 3/4 time, it was looking like an absolute disaster. But we all know, I guess, for what you pay what I paid for him, which was absolute top fucking dollar. But he just did Luke Ryan things, absolute Luke Ryan things. And I know, like, I'm not saying that he was the most impactful player on the ground, because I clearly believe that he definitely wasn't. I think it was Champion Data or someone, one of the official ratings, they had him as the number 1 rated player on the ground. And looking into it, seeing, I guess, more threads as well. Shout out to Jaden Popowski, who is literally all over this data stuff. Like, follow him on Twitter. He made an amazing thread how Luke Ryan doesn't actually kick backwards. He doesn't, because he is the furthest back player. So it is literally impossible for him to kick the ball backwards. And when he kicks it to a contest, he gets bulk points for that long, effective kick, unless it's obviously intercepted. But I feel so much better literally just looking in my back line and seeing L Ryan there. Like, it's just a comfort thing. It's like, I can watch Fremantle games again, watching Fife run around and Jackson and whatnot. And then at the start of the year, like Sharp as well. And then you see Luke Ryan do nothing for 3/4 and then literally just absolutely seagull it in the last. It was so annoying. But now I'm an owner, so I really don't care. Yeah, you need Luke Ryan. And as you know, mate, Saints give up bulk points to back flankers and backmen. So anyone that wants to bring Luke Ryan in, literally go for it. There is no conjecture from me.
Yeah, I think with that, as you mentioned, he goes B, and Saints this week is most likely. Like, I would almost lock him in for 140 plus into this game. And then there's a good chance he ends up towards the 700K mark by his buy. Like, if you don't have him by then, even getting him at his buy, it's going to be impossible.
Well, I mean, that just completely breaks the 1 up, 1 down cadence, doesn't it? Like, unless you literally have 250K in the bank or 200K, it's not happening.
Yep. Look, the other thing with that too is if this wasn't a dead game in the 4th quarter, if he did what he did in quarter 1 of that game, that was like a 90-point quarter. That's just absolutely how insane it was. Honestly, watching as an owner as well, you're thinking, damn, like, it sucks that he's having a down week. I've personally owned him since like round 3, so I'm not going to feel as burnt as anyone that brought him in. But to see that disgusting footy, whew,
Oh,
Definitely
mate,
feels good as an owner.
absolutely agree. Who is our fourth, mate?
Yep. So it's actually a bit of a jump up. So from 6%, we go to 11% of the top 5% have traded in Zach Butters. So now to
Mhm.
67.1% own him. Had a good 147 this week. Look, he was my main VC heading into the week, but then once realizing Sweet was out, I thought a tier 3 Ruckman coming in for them might hurt Butters a little bit. But then I guess Port have never really had a Ruckman, have they? So
No,
didn't seem
I
to
mean,
affect him.
did they not have the absolute superstar in Laddams at one point?
Yes. Yes, they
So
did.
I guess they never recovered from that, mate. Yeah, no. Zach Butters is an absolute superstar. Like he's just one of those premium midfielders you need to get in. He's averaging 124.3. Like it's immense, absolutely immense.
Yeah, and honestly, his current price, he's underpriced for that. Like very underpriced for what he's putting out. He's basically at his starting price, which what he started at like a 113 price tag.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, he's like still 10 points underpriced. So getting on top of him now is a great move. Plus, he has a great buy. So it works out very nice.
absolutely, mate. Who is number three?
Yep. So we do have Bruce Reville. 13% of the top 5% have traded him in. Look, he looked good when he was on the field. I think that's the big question, though. When he was on the field, very low tog.
Yeah,
So
yep. That's my only concern. Very low time on ground. He looked fantastic. I played in a cracking game as well. Crows and Lions. That was an absolute that was game of the round for me. That was wonderful. Um, Obviously there was no winner, which was even better for the Pies. But yeah, it's just that time on ground issue as well, and that's why I think nice little segue. I'm probably leaning towards Lockie Sullivan over Mr. Revel. But yeah, we'll discuss that shortly, mate. Who is number two?
yeah, just quickly on the Pies there. My uncle was actually talking to me because we went once again to the Pies game, and he was like, "Man, this is a great percentage boost." I'm like, "Doesn't matter. We have a draw. Like, who cares?" And he's like,
Yeah,
oh. And then we get a draw the very next game, and it's like, "Wow, that percentage is really important."
it actually matters now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, so jumping into the second most traded in player, 25.9% of the top 5% have traded in Dane Zorko, bringing him to 38.2% already owning him. So, I mean, 12% that were already on him. That's a big reason they're probably in the top 5% because he has been
Absolutely.
elite in that forward line. 45 break even. You just want to get on him. And as much as his body, it's always been questionable in the past, it feels like with the damage he can do, like the points he can score, it doesn't matter if he's in my team for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, he's going to outscore most of those other forwards by such a significant margin. It'll make up for it, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Like as I said, I watched that game. He was on 83 in the dying minutes of the third quarter. He took a kick in. They kicked it back to him. He literally turned it over, then applied a tackle, and literally was boosted up to 97. So I don't know who at Champion Data has him in their side, but he's getting some Bont-like treatment there. And I know we talk about his age and how old he is, and like it's inevitable he's going to break down. But I mean, he played, I think it was a quarter and a half forward against the Giants and pumped out a 56. You take that score out, instead of him averaging 109.4, he's actually averaging 116.1. Like that's midfield numbers. Like that's more than Jack Steele. And this bloke's a forward. Like you need to get him this week if you're going to get him. If you're completely against it, then by all means. But you're praying for an injury, or you're not going to get him anytime soon. So I think this is the week to jump on.
Yeah, and definitely with that as well, as you said, it's like, oh, look, he may break down, but what happens when he doesn't? He's 9 rounds in, and that's what we've been saying from the word go. Oh, Dan Zorko, he won't last. Don't get him. Don't worry about it. 9 weeks in, the guys that were on Zorko, as I said, there's a reason they're in the top 5%. They've been
Absolutely.
smashing it from his numbers. And what happens if he still doesn't break down? What happens if he gets another 12 games out or 15 games out that are left in the season or whatever it is? You're going to be miles behind the competition if you're not on him. So, as you said, you need a hope for him to break down, but definitely could be very rewarding to be on him if he just keeps going.
There is literally, we're not going to include Joey Richards because obviously he's an absolute superstar already, but he's only played one game. If you're looking at the forwards, there's three blokes that are averaging literally over 100. and those three blokes are still averaging over 109. And that's Heaney, Flanders, Zorko. Like the next best is Luke Jackson, who's averaging 99.2. And then you've got Rankin, who's at 98.7. And then you kind of move into the key forwards, which is Mackay, Waterman, Charlie Curnow, and obviously Dylan Moore's in there, who he is a good shout. But it just seems to me those three are so much better than the next echelon of forwards. There's no point grabbing, like right now, there's no point skimping out on your forward line. Like you need to pay top dollar for these blokes because they are just so much better than those around them.
Yeah, and as you said, if his true average is a bit closer to that 116 once we take out that Giants game, I mean, you're getting him at a bargain of a price. He's about to skyrocket in price. If you wait till after he's by, you're going to be paying $650K for Zorko, who could break down in 2 weeks after that. Like this is a perfect time to get on him where you're not paying too much money for him at the moment.
Tell me this doesn't sound like a dream run. Richmond, Hawthorn, Bulldogs, St Kilda, next 4.
That is
obviously that's a round 12 buy in there. But I mean, in those 4 rounds, he could genuinely get over 450 points.
Yeah, no, that's actually insane. Like anybody having a run like that, any of the honestly Brisbane players you look at and you go, damn, they've got a good run right now. So,
yeah,
I mean, I'd be happy with you trading in any of them, but Zorko as a forward line, as you mentioned, just so far ahead of the other forwards that it's you just can't not get
now,
it.
I'm going to take a stab in the dark, mate. Number 1 is going to be Lockie Sullivan, correct?
Yeah, you damn straight it is.
Absolutely.
44.7% of the top 5% of traded they've been at the moment. There may be more. Bringing his ownership up to over 50%. So look, bargain basement price, 102K rookie, minus 92 break even, 75 both games. Like, what is there not to like about this pick on paper, looking at it right now? Tell me about the actual player though, Scobes.
Well, he's literally a centre bounce midfielder. I know he hasn't been predominantly in the centre bounces, but he's in that midfield rotation. And my God, does he just look absolutely primed. Like I've been talking to a few Doggy supporters and they are so dirty that they didn't sign him because obviously he played in their VFL side. But he just looks ready-made. Like he's 26. His debut was fantastic. I mean, obviously we beat Carlton in a close game, so that was wonderful. But he looks so good. Now, I think splitting hairs right now, Richards is a better pick next week than Sullivan is this week. But you need to keep going with that upgrade cadence. Like we talk about that so much, but that is just, it's literally the only way you're going to improve your rank. Now, I know we've got Elliot out, who's 2 to 3 weeks. Elliot's older than what we actually think. Like you think he's so young and whatnot, but he's genuinely not, and he's had lingering back issues in the past. They're not going to bring him straight back in. You've got Tommy Mitchell, who literally the only position he can play is inside mid. He cannot kick a ball. When he does, it's 30 meters in the air and 5 meters backwards, like dead set. It's amazing at what he does, but he's not very good at much else. Him and Geordie are a test this week. I think Geordie gets up. I don't think Titch does. But either way, I still think Sullivan plays. McCreary's a chance to play this week with obviously the concussion. Still needs to be tested again just for lingering effects. But right now...
We did also have Myercheck go out as well, we did.
Yeah, but and I know Myercheck plays a lot taller than what he actually is, so I'm going to just classify him as a key forward. Howe got injured. They're talking 2 to 3 weeks because of a groin, so it's not going to be any issue for Sullivan's job security. Basically, if you're picking Sullivan, you're picking him up until our bye. You're hoping that he makes 100K, which statistically he will if he continues pumping out these scores. He's not going to get a 75 each week. I think realistically we're looking from 60 to 65, but you know he's going to be playing that role that he has played in the VFL for years. Like you're not going to, it's not a Kane McAuliffe type where Uze is literally just going to sit him at half forward and it's completely foreign to what he's been doing his entire career in the VFL. I think Sullivan is rightly the number one traded in option this week. If Richards was on the bubble as well, I'd lean Richards over Sullivan. But right now, like, I would choose Sullivan over Brucey purely because I didn't like Brucey's time on ground. That was fairly disgusting. It says to me that he's a little bit raw. They maybe do not trust him as much as the other players in the team. But with Sullivan, you've got to be cognizant of the fact that post-buys, he's probably not going to play. And anything past that he does play is just a bonus.
Yeah,
Absolute
well, Pies
bonus.
do have the last buy, and it's very important to have these rookies playing through our buy period when we are missing some of these premiums. So as you mentioned, if he can play to the buy, he's going to cover all the other buys. That's going to be perfect. Also, just looking at the information, even if he was to get 41 for the next 2 games, that's 90K like that. So you talked about him hopefully making that 100K. He doesn't have to do much to make 100K. So
No.
as long as he's on the park, he should be pretty good to get there.
And no disrespect to Crows supporters or Crows themselves, but when you see that fixture, it doesn't scare you, so to speak.
Yeah. And I do love that you brought up his first game came in, was really good against Carlton. Actually, very important. First touch, first kick, first goal. Beautiful stuff there. So definitely one place in my heart.
If we could talk about beating Carlton all night, but no one would probably really want to listen to us, mate. So thank you very much for the market summary, mate. You've done a fantastic job. We are going to get to some questions now. This is from Ivor Biggin. You've got a Biggin what? But where's Joshy? Joshy is extremely busy at the moment. He is literally working all day, doing modules for another job. Like, this man is just doing absolutely everything. So he will be back as soon as humanly possible. We miss him a lot. And yeah, he'll be back as soon as literally time permits. Jono, thank you so much for being here, mate. You're an absolute superstar. Trades I'm looking at are Graham and Reed to Revel to... Look, I hope that's Zorko because you did message me. And I'm hoping... Here we go. We've got the full questions. Thank you very much for sending this back in to Reed and Zorko. And I'm offloading House next week to a primo forward. Yep, I completely agree with that, Jono. That looks fantastic, mate.
Yeah, just something on a House that I remembered. I did see that obviously Hall got injured again. So for all those that were holding Hall, hoping he'd come back, and he's injured again. So
it's not going to happen, is it?
Yeah,
unfortunately. Which is a shame for him. Oh, big shame.
Yeah.
Jake Sharp, how are we, boys? We are good, mate. If reading competent is the only way to net me a premium this week, is it worth upgrading Chom with money to potentially make still? In this situation, I would say yes. I'm not a big fan of Charlie Comben as a super coach option. I mean, chances are he could average 70 and max out in 3 weeks, but you really need these spike scores. And obviously it happened. He has the potential to do that, but I'd rather put my money into a premium knowing that the percentage of that premium score is going to be, say, anywhere between 40, 50, and 60 between Comben. I'd happily do that. Ferns, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I mean, look, Comben's shown that he can score easily between 50 and 60, and wouldn't surprise me at all if he does. And over the next 2 weeks, yeah, he has this 98 new cycle, but even with 50s and 60s, you may be milking another 20 to 30K. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, you want to trade him. No problem there.
Perfect, mate. Perfect. Beck, thank you so much for joining in, Beck. Better job security, Revel or Sullivan? Job security, I'm going to say Revel. Scoring-wise, it's definitely Sullivan. And I think if you're going to be playing one of those on field or potentially looping, just go Sullivan. Sullivan's got the chances to actually, in the future, progress to a better job security than Rebel. Absolutely. Burns, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, no, I think you said it all.
Wonderful, mate. Wonderful. Love when you agree with me. It doesn't happen that often. Jono, we've done that one. Tony, you absolute legend. We love you so much and appreciate your support. Graham and Reed to Sullivan and Ryan, or Richards or Revel, better option. No, you've locked that in. That's perfect, mate. Sullivan and Ryan, then you can enjoy Freo games once again, mate. Burns, your thoughts?
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. Jeez, you're on fire tonight, Vince. Absolutely on fire. Sammy Road. Hey, legends, here from Twitter chat, first time viewer. Thank you so much for being here, mate. We really appreciate it. Absolutely love your work. Every Tuesday we're on, mate. We do not miss. Do not miss. Jack. Hey, boys. I'm most likely doing Harley, Graham to Sullivan and one of three. Zorko, Rankin, or Houston. What do you recommend? The first name you put down there, Zorko, that's who I'm suggesting, mate. It's just the role. Like he literally, it's Seagull. It's pure super coach porn. You need players like that in your team. Ferns, do you disagree?
No, I don't.
Wonderful, mate. Jeez, you are so close to a pay rise. You are doing so well. I have a big one. All my rookies playing have a lower minus break evens or dead rooks like Clark, McCall, etc. Boys, thinking no trades this week as a result. In that situation, but then again, I wouldn't want to miss out on potentially Sullivan. In that situation, if you're banking 70K going from Clark to Sullivan, I'd really consider doing that. Just purely because, like, Scott just doesn't trust Clark. His time on ground is disgusting. Like, even when this bloke isn't the sub, he might as well be the sub. He's just never on the field. So I would be very tempted to go Clark to Sullivan and keep McCall. If, like, their injuries, you would think if Uze has half a brain cell left in his noggin, he has to play him in his natural position, and that's inside mid. He killed it in the VFL. It was fantastic, and surely now, seeing as they've literally got like a half a fit list, he has to play inside mid. So I'd keep McAuliffe, and I'd really consider going Clark to Sullivan. Ferns, your thoughts?
Yeah. Look, I do agree with you. Definitely Clark over McAuliffe. I mean, look, McAuliffe's going to bank you like 15K. You might as well get an extra 60K and move on Clark. Saying that, though, you did mention they all have low or minus break evens. Now, if they are sort of the players that I mentioned before, where it's like Closey with a 30, Darcy with a 30, Combin with a 30, where, yeah, they're low, but I would still trade them, as bad as that sounds. Like, if you not trading this week means that you don't get a one up, one down, it's not worth holding a premium for an extra, maybe you squeeze 15, 20K out of them. Like, that's not worth it. Just make this move, get rid of Darcy, unfortunately, get rid of Closey, unfortunately, get a premium in this week.
You are a superstar, Burns. Genuine superstar. Absolutely nailed it, mate. Absolutely nailed it. Joe Richardsworth going early on with the injuries in Collingwood's forward line. No. Just wait. You were spot on. Injuries galore, but just wait, mate. You've got Sullivan there this week. Just be patient. Burns, thoughts?
I agree.
Wonderful. Michael Higginson, great to have you here, mate. I've seen your name popping around in the chat a few streams now. Hi, guys. Can we hold McKercher for at least a week until we get more information about his injury? Wouldn't be surprised if he misses the following week, and then it's their bye anyways. Ooh, so he's going to be missing 3 weeks if that comes to fruition. See, in that instance, I know he's got an incredibly low break even and obviously more cash to make. If he's missing 2, then a buy, I'm ditching. But that's me personally. If it's only 1, we know he's not playing this week and he's going to be assessed. You can spin that how you want. Like, it's entirely up to your bias. You could have the perception that he's missing 1, they're going to assess him, he's going to be absolutely fine, have about 10 days break, no worries, comes straight back in. Or they're going to assess him and it's not good, they're literally going to put him on ice until the bye is done. So, yeah, if you think it's going to be 1, hold. If you think it's going to be more, I'd be ditching, but that's just me personally. Burns, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's nice that he has the midfield defensive DPP, so you can at least swing him around. And I think it really comes down to how attached you are, because if you've held McKercher this whole time and this has happened, then trading him is going to feel pretty easy. He's made you 170K. Awesome. If you're a guy that traded him in last week, got 69K out of him, and now you may have to trade him, I understand that's going to be very hard to sort of accept that as much as it should have been the right play, it wasn't. And I do agree. I do think you should be moving him on if you think he's going for the next 3. If you think he's back the following week, I don't mind holding him.
Yeah, wonderful, mate. Wonderful. We have Supercoach Pro. Now, this bloke is a superstar, an absolute superstar. Now, I can't confirm nor deny this, but this man was actually pulled up on the side of the road the other day, and the police officer was just absolutely in a trance. Actually asked him for 2 gun licenses because this man's biceps, my God, I don't know what he's juiced up with, but if you're a female, do not look him in the eyes because somehow you will get pregnant. He is an absolute weapon. Yo, Robertson Reed out for Ryan and Brucey this week for me. VC Ryan, C Butters for me. I like it, mate. But I would lean to swap Brucey with Sullivan, and perfect. Absolutely perfect. Burns, do you have anything more to add to this statement?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, you could change it for Sullivan, but it does come down to if he's getting him in the forward line or not. Obviously, Brucey does have that DPP, which is quite nice. Yeah, no, I agree with the VC as well. I mean, it's going to be very hard captaining this week because you're going to feel very hard. If you captain anyone, VC anyone before Ryan, if they're not doing like 150 plus, I don't know how you don't take the punt on Ryan. Like, that's just how insane this is going to be. I'm not too sure about Butters C though. Do we think there's any chance of Finn goes to him?
He could, but I reckon he just burns him off.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I wouldn't be worried about that.
Yeah. If I was a Gorn owner personally, I would be putting the C on Gorn against West Coast.
Yep.
But I'm not, and maybe Supercoach Pro isn't either. So Butter C is sort of the next best thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, is there any reason? Like, Butters has just been absolutely phenomenal. So, very worthy of a C shout. Absolutely. We have Jay again. Would you prioritise Ryan or Zorko? Well, mate, I've got 2 questions for you. Do you enjoy watching Freo games? If not, then you probably want Ryan. But what does 100 extra K do to your team next week? Because that's the difference between Zorko and Ryan. Ryan's at 666,000 and Zorko's at 566,000. If you think Zorko can match Ryan or get within, say, 10, 15 points for the next 5 weeks, you go Zorko. Simple as that. Because you're saving 100K. And then just do a little bit of planning. If you miss the premium that you want next week by, say, 30K, then, okay, that's stomachable. You can understand that. If you miss by, a long shot and you are so dead set stuck on bringing that premium in, you just bring Zorko in this week, mate, and literally hide behind the couch when Freo play. Ferns, who would you prioritise, mate?
Yeah, look, I would personally prioritize Ryan. I think just as you sort of mentioned, yes, Zorko's a 116 average, and the next best forward, maybe 98-ish, so you're probably like 18 points better. The thing that's actually crazy with Ryan here, obviously the 131 average, then everyone's got Dacos, so I'm not going to count him as the next closest. Sheasel's got a role change, so he's been a bit questionable. But does
Shees go back now that McKerch is out?
Look, I'd probably say probably, but once again, he's also very highly owned as well. The next one, I guess, under there that you probably don't own would be Houston at 109. That's 22 points difference on the average. So it's actually slightly larger with Ryan. I think I would feel a lot safer with Ryan in my team than Zorko. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ryan isn't like not injury prone or anything. He still definitely misses games here and there. But I think I would feel more safe with Ryan in the team, especially into St. Kilda. But it also depends, I guess, on your setup. If you've already got 5 defenders and you've got 2 forwards, then it may just be better to get the third forward in. But I don't think you're going wrong with either.
Perfect, mate. Ivor Biggin, don't you 2 gimps know the sun's gone down? That's probably a reference to us both wearing hats. Yes, Ivor, thank you very much for pointing that out. You absolute superstar. The Sir 420, thank you so much for joining, mate. We appreciate you every single week. G'day, lads. Hope you're well. Going Powell and Campbell out for Heaney and Revel this week leaves me 67k. So no big moves possible with a boost. Maybe a rookie downgrade at best if there's someone I need. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely, like, there's nothing wrong with that. I would go that. I'd definitely consider looking at Zorko because then, and I know that you go for Brisbane, so you'll have more insight than I, but if you're saving, say, another 60k, that's almost 130k for next week. What does that do for your team when you're only going to have 67k in the bank next week if you do go Heaney? See what that does. Do a little bit of planning. If it doesn't do much for it, then just keep with what you've got, mate. Ferns, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, most important thing is next week's planning. Because if you're going one rookie down and it's banking you 150k, 217k might seem like a lot, but if you've got a 300k rookie that you're upgrading, it's only low 500s. That's not really getting you anyone that's worth it, especially in the midfield. It's not getting you any premium, like top tier premium defenders, and then you can get speculative forwards if you're really, if you're satisfied with that. So I do agree that extra money in the bank is probably going to help your upgrade cadence a lot next week, but just make sure you've got that planned out. As long as you've got moves planned out going forward, then feel free.
Yeah, wonderful. Big Baller Brand. What do you reckon of Ed Richards as a value pick as high CBAs while Liver is out? Trap? No, I don't think he's a trap, so to speak. I think he's been absolutely fantastic whilst Liver's been out. And from an article I read today, he is going to get DPP. So I don't know if that's going to help you very much, but I assume it will. The only issue is he's got 1 ton on the year. And that was a big 163, which is just gone. So is that a little bit of recency bias? I'm not too sure, but if you take out that 163, are those scores that you're seeing, is that something that you're going to be happy with in your side when you're paying 477k? Now, I know that obviously his break-even's low, it's 27, so he's going to eclipse that in probably the first quarter. But I think you can only have very minimal value picks. Like if you got on Clary last week, then I would not be going Ed Richards this week. I mean, I'd happily just wait. If he gets to 520 and he's still pumping out hundreds after hundreds each week, then jump on then. Don't try and be a hero and predict something that may not happen, and then you're stuck with this potato that is just literally hovering under 500k just because they've got the dickhead coach factor. There's a lot of variables going on there, and they literally beat up on one of the worst teams in the AFL. So I would be hesitant, and I would probably wait on Ed Richards. Ferns, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I would probably say he is a trap, honestly. I don't think he's going to be top 10 defenders. As you sort of mentioned, I was actually definitely jumping on it as soon as you said it. But outside of that 163, he's got an 82 break even. And it's not like, oh my goodness, he got moved to the midfield, and in the midfield, he dropped to 163 straight away. He's a great pick. It's like, no. He spent 3 weeks in there beforehand. I understand the Hawthorn game with Libba back, it was only like 20% CBAs, a bit less. But against St Kilda, which is pretty weak midfield outside of Steele, 75, and he had 90% CBAs. Freo, 90% CBAs, 79. Like, as you mentioned, he versed one of the worst teams in the AFL at this current time. They have a lot of injuries in that midfield, and they absolutely ruffle stomped them by almost 100 points. Like, this was just circumstance of the game, in my opinion, and I don't think we're going to be seeing that kind of scoring from him. I think you're definitely going to get between this maybe 95 to 70 range from him, and that's going to average you around the 90 mark, and it's just not good enough in defense. And even looking at his matchups going forward, GWS, not an easy midfield. Sydney, not an easy midfield. I know what Sarong did, but Sarong's a beast. And then this week, then we got Pies. This week, yes, we shut down West Coast, but usually we're not that hot shot in the mid. Brisbane, then back to Freo. It's not an easy next few weeks for him before the bye. So, I would not touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, well, give it a whack, mate. Fantastic. Sammy Rowe. 2 things I'm weighing up. Roberts to Fisher, Harley Reid to Clary, or Roberts to Zorko, Jack Carroll to Sullivan. Have Heaney and Flanders ranked 3.6k currently. Cheers, legends. With your rank, I think you need to go with the pack, mate, for this stage. Clary right now has the potential to be, say, top 12 in the midfield going forward. Fisher could easily be top 8 as a forward, but we don't know. Like, we literally just assume that Sheasel is going to be top 6 as a defender, and then he's had a role change, and now he looks absolutely disgusting. So I think right now, Zorko is going to have the role. He is guaranteed. And when I say guaranteed, we spoke about it earlier on. So once this comes out on the audio, go back and listen to that. Zorko's literally guaranteed to be top 6. Like, it's a given. Like, something massive has to happen for that not to eventuate. So I'd go the second one, mate. Ferns, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I mean, he's trying to make pod plays, and you're right. Fisher's not owned by much of the top 5% at all. I think there's like 300 teams that have him in the top 10%. So it's definitely a pod play, which, that can be the difference between you climbing and falling. But I do think, even me last week, I mentioned I want to start looking at more pod plays. I still can't look past Zorko this week. I think Zorko is going to be such a good pick that if you just don't get him, it doesn't matter what sort of pod play you're making, you're probably just losing out. So yeah. I would probably just get Zorko this week. I don't even think that's playing it safe. I think that's just playing it correct.
Perfect, mate. Perfect. You are so close to a pay rise, mate. You've been fantastic tonight. Jay, thoughts on trading Stuart Reid and Roberts to Ryan, Zorko and Brucey, leaving one boost left? I am a huge fan of this. A huge fan of it. Very attacking, very aggressive, and a little bit out of the box trading Stuart. But he has been absolutely shit since he's come back. Absolutely shit. It's not the same Stuart. And to be honest, if you own Stuart right now, if you want to have a decent rank by the end of the year, if nothing changes, you're going to be trading him out in the last, say, 6 weeks, honestly. But he's not even averaging 100. And I know he, decided to run into the back of someone's head and concuss himself, but he hasn't been fantastic. And, like, if we look at his scores, we've got, from the start of the year, a 105, which is, you expect more from Stuart. 134, which is great. Hawks, 99. Dogs, 77. North, 108. Everyone scores well against them. And was it against Brisbane that he got knocked out? It was a 62. So that's understandable. Yeah. Then he scores 104 against Melbourne, which is a pass, and an 84 against Port. It's just not the same Tommy Stewart. If you're going to be aggressive, I would 100% do that. 100%. Ferns, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, look, I mean, I traded him when he got knocked down in round 7, sideways him the Dacos, so I can't not be with this. Saying that, Dacos has a 141 3-round average, so been very good in my team. Yeah. But I think with this as well, it's the perk of having a boost. He's still doing a 1 up, 1 down. And that's the most important thing. You're keeping your upgrade cadence going, and then you're fixing up a faulty premium. Like, yep. This is perfect.
I agree, mate. I agree. We have rookie coach AFL. What's cracking, boys? How are you, mate? Good to have you here. Thoughts on Rankin versus Zorko? Going Howes and Reid to Zach Reid, Essendon, and Zorko Porco. My first question is, Zach Reid, is he even guaranteed to play? Like, do you need a defender? I don't know if you actually do. He's played 1 game, and obviously that was the 15, which was unfortunate for him, but he's not even on the bubble, so you can afford to wait. Get Sullivan instead, work some DPP, send us your team, just add us on Twitter, and literally get Zorko over Rankin this week, play the break-evens on that. So, yeah, and Zorko's role is better.
I would have to say, because it is Howes going out, he needs a defender to trade in. That's surely the only reason.
Move something around.
I mean, look, in my case, I would be similar. If I have Pink and Caulfield on my bench, if one of them is if I trade one of them out, a defender would have to come in. And I reckon he's going to be in the same position. We're moving one of them out. You just have to, unfortunately, bring a defender in. So it does suck. I mean, maybe he still has a Graham in the midfield, but then you probably traded Graham last week. I would think. I do agree, Zorko over Rankin. Yes, Rankin had a great spike game this week, but that's what we call points chasing. You know, you see a massive game from someone and you go, oh my goodness, get on him. No, you needed to get on him the week before he got that score. Does he have a good run coming up? I mean, after this Collingwood game, yes, definitely he does. I was sort of talking to you about the Adelaide run before we jumped on, and I was like, man, Tex could be a really cheeky pod to bring in as of next week into, you know, West Coast Hawthorn and then Richmond, like 3 of the bottom 5 teams in the next 4 weeks. So I can understand why you're getting Rankin now to try and prep for that, but I do think you get Zorko this week. Rankin can come in next week into that juicy run if you really want Rankin that bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, you raised some great points. As I said, rookie coach AFL, send us your team on Twitter, mate. Handles literally in the names on the screen, buddy. And we'll sort it out for you. Ivor Biggin. Mick Cockering has confided in me. He's your number one fanboy, Nathan. That's fantastic. Mick, I love his stuff on Twitter. Whoever is behind that Twitter account, my God, you do not get paid enough because it's absolutely gold. Literal gold. Michael Higginson, trading Reid to Zorko and second trade with McKercher injury, and if Sheasel playing mid, could I bypass Revel/Sullivan and trade in Fisher? Can he put up some good scores and make cash gen? I would assume this is meant to be the same as rookies. If you're trading Fisher in, you are thinking that he's going to continue his Seagull role, which I have my doubts over already. We saw how good Sheasel was as a defender doing that, and Clarko fucked it. Like, Clarko's got to keep throwing those magnets around because they are absolutely shocking. They are terrible. Reid to Zorko, absolutely. Lock that in. I spoke to you, Verns, earlier. Literally just wait 2 weeks. If Fisher is the real deal, pay 50K more and get him then. At least you know Revel and Sullivan are going to make cash. And in Zorko's case, he's guaranteed to be top of his line, so you lock that away. But just play patient. Like, you don't need to be a hero and trade Fisher in this week. If he pops and gets it to 120, then you know you have the data there. You don't need to feel bad about missing it because you can bring him in next week. You bring him in this week, has a role change, pumps out a 50, you're going to feel like a massive tool because you don't know what's going to happen with Clarko. As I said, Sheasel was absolutely electric off halfback. Absolutely amazing. One of their best players. Role change happened. No one saw that coming. It's just too unpredictable. Verns, what's your thoughts on this, mate?
Yeah, definitely a tough one. I mean, look, Fisher has a 4-year contract there, so it feels like he's going to get played because of it. That doesn't mean he's going to get played off the halfback, though, as you mentioned.
But didn't they sign like Jared Polek for 7 years? Like, I mean, 7 years at whatever it was, and then they brokered a deal to get him out of the club because they realised that was the biggest mistake in their history.
Yeah, and then they did it again with Fisher. How could they?
Yeah.
Look, I think as well with McKercher's injury, it's like this is a 1-week injury, and you're trading in Fisher thinking, oh man, he's going to get all the ball, and then McKercher's back next week, and Fisher goes back to these 80s to 90s. And I agree with you. I think that you don't need to push it at this current stage. Definitely just let more data happen because the data we have so far shows that yes, he has a ceiling. He can definitely do this, but he can also put out consecutive 70s after 70s after 70s because the man doesn't know how to kick a footy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree. Now, the next one, I'm not going to say a word, Verns, because I don't speak whatever language this is. I choose sunlight and to go outside. So you can sort this one out.
Yeah, look, I definitely think Haiku number 1. Don't get me wrong, I loved Kuroko for its time, like when it came out. It's basically basketball anime versus volleyball anime. But just Haiku just hits with different feels.
I'm going to pretend like I did not hear a word of that. And we're going to move on. Ivor Biggin. Hey, Nath, can I get a price projection for Dan Gorringe, please? I got him for 3 soggy tea bags and a crusty burnt pie and I've been kicking myself ever since. Mate, you got absolutely ripped off. If you can, try and swap it back, mate, because you're not getting anything out of it. Fletcher Ma. Hey, guys, do you reckon ranking his top 6 even with the low CBAs? Yes, purely because the top 6 is disgusting. Like if we're looking at it right now, we went through it before. I should have just kept this up.
Yeah, ranking
But
on average right now is 6th, as you mentioned, 98.7.
it's just like Heaney is a lock. Flanders is a lock. Zorko is a lock. Jackson, depending on whether Shrek's back or not, he has. I would probably rate Rankin better than Jackson at this stage. So Rankin 4th, Jackson 5th, but then I'd have Jackson competing with all the key forwards and Dylan Moore. So I reckon for me, the top 3 are sewn up. Rankin's a better chance at top 4 than Jackson, and then Jackson, Dylan Moore, and the key forwards, as in like Mackay, Waterman, Kerno, etc. They're fighting for just to round it out. So I don't know. Rankin's been amazing, but it's if he had more CBAs, I'd be all over him. But this week, if you're deciding between the two, it's got to be Zorko. Surely.
Yeah. Yeah, look, this is the other thing you got to take into account. It's not about what their current average is. It's about what they're averaging for the rest of the year. So it doesn't matter if, Luke Jackson's ranked, 4th overall for total points in the forward line. If from here to the rest of the season, he ends up being the 11th highest scoring forward, then it's not good enough. It might mean that he finishes as 6th overall for total points, but the time he's in your team, he was technically 11th. So it's about timing these as well. As we sort of mentioned, Rankin's run as of next week after Collingwood, insane. I mean, West Coast at Adelaide Oval, Hawthorn MCG, Richmond Adelaide Oval, Sydney Adelaide Oval, GWS Adelaide Oval. Like, it gets beautiful after this week. To the point that, as I said, I was kind of eyeballing texts like, hey, how many bags can he kick in 3 weeks? So I think Rankin next week is going to be really good. And that's going to be the other thing with these key forwards. It's about getting them at the right time. If you can get them at the right time and they can do like 110 in your team, even though their overall average was 95, that's elite.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely, mate. Great summary of that. Global, great to have you here, mate. Will they manage Zorko this week because they're playing the Tigers and sub him at halftime? I mean, that's a crystal ball question, but this talk around Zorko being managed or subbed out, I reckon is just an absolute load of rubbish. That's just literal discussion made out of thin air. We see how many times people actually get injured. Like the Pies were down to 2 on the bench at one stage in a game. If you have and you're in the position to have luxury sub outs to manage players, then you've handled the game extremely well. Don't get me wrong. I think Brisbane are going to absolutely destroy the Tigers, but I would be absolutely astonished to see Zorko subbed out. And when I say subbed, tactically subbed. Your thoughts, Burns?
Yeah, I think the other thing too, they've got a buy in 2 weeks. Like, why are we giving him a rest right now when he's going to have a rest in 2 weeks? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me to be doing that. Like, the only time, as you said, you're giving him a rest is, hey, he's come to the bench and he's gone, oh, I'm a little bit tight. We're up by 10 goals and there's a quarter left. Like, maybe we'll just take it easy. By that time, those Orcs are already going to have 110 points, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, well, hopefully, yeah, he's absolutely destroying that. Sammy Taylor, again, for the 3rd week in a row, we have an AFL listed footballer here watching us. Verns, we are absolute elite tier content, mate. Absolutely elite. And to be fair, Sammy Taylor did give us the hot tip that Tommy Green would play. So we knew it before anyone. If you'd want breaking news, come to the stream. Sammy Taylor, which trades? Powell and Clossy to Sullivan and Zorko, or Powell and McKercher to Sullivan and Nick Martin? I think McKercher will be out for too long and we'll have to trade. If you really believe that McKercher is going to be out for too long, I think you go Powell and McKercher to Sullivan and Zorko if money allows, which I'm fairly sure it should. So that's my vote. I just change it up. What is Nick Martin? 589. Zorko's 566. So if you've got that 23K in the bank to be able to facilitate what I just suggested, absolutely go for it. If not, I would go probably Powell and McKercher to Sullivan and Martin. Burns, what would you do, mate?
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense that it doesn't matter what the trade in is. The trade in should be Sullivan and Zorko. It's just a matter of the trade out. Is it Klossy or is it McKercher? And that's got to come down to, once again, if you've got the crystal ball, as you said before, to know if he's gone for 2 weeks or 1 week, then you can make the shot call off that. The only reason I would, I guess, choose Nick Martin over Zorko, I mean, first of all, Zorko's in the forward line, so it's like way better as well. Is if you just have no risk tolerance for him. You're like, no, I don't care. He's 35 and I'm not bringing him in at all. But it sounds like you are debating it. So if you're debating it, then just bring him in.
Yeah, and if you've got any leaked inside team news, mate, you know where to find me. Send it through, mate. I really appreciate that. BR42. Is Serong worth paying 668k for despite how good he is going, or better to wait and pray for an off game? Mate, I've been praying for an off game since the season started. This man just doesn't have them. He's an absolute weapon, and you need to get him in as soon as possible. 668 is an absolute mountain to pay for, though. And last week I paid 640, I think it was, for Luke Ryan, and that was hard enough to stomach. So this is purely team dependent. What else can you do if you're not getting Serong in, is my question to you, mate. Ferns, your thoughts? Would you pay 668k for Serong?
Oh, goodness. It's so hard because he's the number 1 rated player in Supercoach. I mean, they've got a good buy coming up. The only reason I would say no at this week is they're going into St. Kilda, and I reckon Windy's going to him. I reckon Windhagger will go to him. He'll go to 110. Which doesn't even sound bad getting a 110, but he's just that kind of beast that even having someone sitting on him, he's still going to muster up a 110. And you can maybe wait a little bit. So, saying that though, every single week, I think that, when I chose Green over Serong, I thought I can wait. And then I chose Dunkley last week over Serong. I thought it's fine. I can wait. And those last 2 weeks have really hurt. And I mean, it could be a third one. I'm really hoping Windy doesn't let us down.
I'd love to see a hard Serong tag. That'd be fantastic. We have Michael Higginson. Do I hold shares or trade to Butters, or trade 5 to one of the rookies, or save the trade? Save the trade, in my opinion. Burns?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, unless you've got a boost and you're doing this as like a luxury trade to the side, but even that, I wouldn't waste a boost on that. I think you just hold and pray for him to get the rollback, because you're going to feel mighty silly if he gets that rollback after their bye and he's not in your team.
Absolutely. Verns, hit me with your VC and C option this week, mate.
Oh, look, unlike all you privileged kids, I don't have Gorn, so he will not be in my loop strategy. I did mention before that I hate the idea of not VCing Ryan, because I think I'm going to get baited into seeing him no matter what. It's a good week, though. It's a good week for a lot of options. I mean, we've got, as I mentioned before, the Brisbane boys into Richmond. That's going to be nice. You got the Gold Coast points into Geelong, who give up a ton of points to these inside mids. We have English into GWS, Briggs, the ruck that gives up the most Supercoach points to other rucks. Even just Melbourne into West Coast, any of those guys. But I think I'm going to be going VC English, probably not taking anything less than, I'd say, a 135 minimum into Ryan, into St. Kilda. And even that, I might push to a 140 because it's scary. I think Ryan's going to go so big.
Yeah, at this stage, it's either going to be Dakes or Ryan into Livingston. But if either of those two fail, whichever one I go, it's just going to be into Gorn. Like, I think Gorn could literally break the scoring system this week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As someone that doesn't own Gorn, I am actually tempted to trade him in this week, even with that 178 break even, knowing he's probably going to beat it. And then he's got West Coast again very quickly on the bounce back. So terrified not owning him.
Wonderful. We have one last question. This one's for you, Verns. I don't speak this kind of language.
Yeah, look, top 3 anime, it's very hard to say. I'm a huge fan of Hunter x Hunter, though, so that has to go number 1. Look, I'm just going to put Haikyuu for recency bias because I did just rewatch it all, prepping for the movie that's coming out to cinemas on the 30th. And let's just go Attack on Titan number 3. There we go. Easy.
Okay, and if anyone Beaks basement, you would have understood what Verns has just said. And on that note, we are signing off. Thank you so much for everyone that has dropped by, has been in the live stream, and is listening on the audio. Thank you so much to everyone that's been here. Don't forget to check us out on TikTok, check us out on X. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify. Link is literally in the bio for everything. Don't forget to subscribe. Check us out on YouTube. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Honeyball. As always, if you need live injury updates, quotes from presses, and before time information before it hits the public, go hit up those boys. Tell them who sent you. You'll get a little discount. Verns, where can the listeners find you?
Yeah, you just find me at X Verns_SC Hub or on YouTube at Verns Supercoach.
Wonderful, mate. Wonderful. You can find me at Scobie_SC Hub on X. You can find Joshy as well at JG_SC Hub on X as well. And I'm sure he'll be back soon. Thank you so much to everyone that has dropped by the live stream and is listening on the audio currently. And we will be back once again, same time, same place, 9:05, live on YouTube next Tuesday. Have a great evening. Thank you very much.